All right, greetings, family. I have the honor of being in the presence of Queen Kenya and Chief Foday from the Gullah Nation. I'm going to let him introduce himself. If you don't know him, you're going to know him today, and you're not going to forget what this is about, because we're about to get an education. So Amon and I are buckled in our seats, and we're ready for this ride. So here we go. Chief?
Absolutely. Greetings, sister. So, I guess what we could talk about is Sierra Leone and the connection here, why it's so important for people to know it.
And to come back.
Yeah, even to know it, because you have to know it first before you come back. Sierra Leone is different than Ghana. You know, Ghana had the example of Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah was able to be the first to call the diaspora home. And because of that, Ghana is seen as like the Pan-African capital. But in Sierra Leone, you see something a little bit different. First of all, where we are, Freetown City, is a Pan-African metropolis. It's not just a city. When you understand how this city came about, it took the intelligence, the hands, the labor of Africans who were born in Nigeria, Barbados, Jamaica, America, on plantations or free. There was the majority of those who made up the group today that we know as Creole came only after 1808 up to 1858.
Okay.
And so before that, there was three other successive groups. The first group that returned back to try to settle this place right here that we see, Freetown, was called the Black Poor. That's what the Europeans call them, the Black Poor. They make up names so that we don't know who we are.
So you said Black Poor, as in P-O-O-R?
Yes.
Okay.
And the Black Poor were Africans who were indentured, more like servants in Britain. And also, the overwhelming majority of them were Africans who were evacuated from the United States of America during the American Revolution.
Okay.
Because if you remember, the British Crown was fighting against its colonial rebels. The colonial rebels won. But in the middle of the fight, Britain said, if you're enslaved to a rebel, run to our side. We will give you a gun, freedom, and land. And Africans responded. It wasn't just an American Revolution, it also was an African rebellion within for our freedom that they never talk about.
Right.
And so the British people who was running and fleeing the colonies while they was in rebellion, they was taking their Africans with them. And when they would take them back to Britain, they would say Britain is unfit for this form of slavery. So they would turn them loose, but they would end up free but poor in the streets. And the reason why they ended up poor in the streets was that there was a common law in Britain at the time that if you're a pauper, if you're poor, only your people from your tribe, from your clan, has the responsibility to take care of you. Us being Africans, we didn't have anyone. So this is where you get the abolitionist movement and the white left of that time, seeking to take care of the poor Negro. So they call them the Black Poor. The poverty led to them being called criminals. They was saying they was running around with the white woman and stuff like that.
Right.
So they were exploring this coastline. This coastline had been explored by Europeans since as early as the mid-1400s. The Portuguese came first.
When you say exploring, are you talking about, I mean, I imagine at that time there was no industry or anything. Absolutely. So were they just trying to find a way to penetrate the country, or?
There was massive industry. This country, Sierra Leone, didn't exist as Sierra Leone until 1961. It was a colony of Britain. Only Freetown Peninsula was a colony. The rest of the country was a protectorate. So after the Europeans came back, after slavery, they said, okay, no more transatlantic slave trade. Let's build colonies now.
Okay.
So they built these cities like Monrovia, Freetown. They built these centralized cities, and then they said, well, we're going to fight slavery now.
So So
they turned back and started to repress the trade that they had engineered.
Right.
And use that as an excuse to protect the people that they were just enslaving, and use that as an excuse to eradicate boundaries after the scramble for Africa, and they colonized the whole continent like that.
So what role does the tree,
the cotton tree,
the cotton tree play?
Well, the cotton tree is significant. First of all, let me just tell you that in 1787, the first group of Africans from the diaspora made their mass exodus home. Back then, it was financed and controlled by British interests.
Yes.
Particularly the abolitionists, those who were fighting for the end of slavery. While at the same time they were seeking to suppress slavery, they were seeking to build colonies like this so they could take the natural resources and control the people. So we get lost sometimes. Well, they were trying to free us. No, they wasn't. They were trying to build colonies with liberated
Trying
Africans.
to monopolize.
Yeah, they needed us as middlemen. They couldn't settle here.
Right.
The malaria.
Right.
You understand that?
Yes.
So what happened was there was a white man named Henry Smitherman, and he was a botanist. So he was traveling up and down the coast, like I said, exploring, like looking for areas. And when he reached this area, he said, man, this is the most beautiful area he has seen in all of his life. He said, man, will be great, a great place to bring the black poor back and give them their freedom in their own continent. So he went up there, he talked to the white abolitionists. They bought the ideal. They brought back over 400 first. And some of them were white women, 50 white women. They brought them back, and by 1789, that settlement was destroyed. That settlement was destroyed because the indigenous people rose up and destroyed it because the Europeans destroyed one of the indigenous villages. So they retaliated and destroyed the first settlement. And that first settlement wasn't called Freetown. That was called the Province of Freedom.
Okay.
And so it was a failed settlement. In 1792, our ancestors came from Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia is a place where they were only there for 5 years.
It was too cold.
They were there for 5 years, and they got called the name Nova Scotians forever in history. When you trace back who they were enslaved Africans, largely from Virginia and South Carolina.
Wow.
And they were evacuated from New York, 3,600 of them. 1/3, 1,200, made the first exodus back to settle Freetown.
Right.
And Freetown has been a political entity since 1792.
Wow.
This is the first Pan-African city created, settled by us in the history of people coming back from across the water and settling it. This happened 30 years before Liberia. In fact, the people who settled Liberia had to come to Freetown first.
I heard that.
And then the Freetown people took them down to Liberia. So Freetown was the hub. And then on top of that, in 1800, in 1792, when we came back from Nova Scotia, it was because we led a protest movement to the British Crown. We said, man, y'all giving us poor land and treating us bad still. What's up? So Thomas Peters, who was a brother who was enslaved in Wilmington, North Carolina, and even Charleston, South Carolina at the time, and Louisiana at the time, he was actually born an Igbo in Africa, and around 20 years old, he was captured. And he was taken to first Louisiana, where he ran 3 times. Then they sold him to South Carolina. Then he ended up in Wilmington. As soon as the British said, jump to our side, you can go get free, he jumped. And he became part of what the British called the Black Loyalists. These were the black people that stayed loyal to Britain in the American Revolution.
Wow.
So after they lost the war, they evacuated a bunch of their enemies' property.
Right.
Us. It was contraband of war. They evacuated us by force. They sent many of us to Barbados, many of us to Cuba. They sent some to Bermuda, sent some to Florida. But the biggest group went to Nova Scotia.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Just because this information is so valuable, I think it was enough to give the people a taste. If y'all want any more information, you need to make a donation to their organization. Can you tell them about your organization real quick? And then I'm going to cut this off so we can keep all the rest for ourselves.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay.
So the name of our organization, we actually have 3. We have a multi-organizational structure. We have one organization called the Gullah Nation of North America. It's a non-profit organization that was created by a community of us. The community of Gullah Geechees formed an organization for descendants. And I serve as the paramount chief for that community.
Okay.
And also serve as the executive director for the organization. That's one organization. The other one is the Gullah Redemption Mission Sierra Leone. Okay. Which is a non-profit company registered here in Sierra Leone. We do all kinds of social development projects. We promote tourism. We advocate and assist people in their repatriation and their visits home. Okay. Through there, we have a travel agency, and we just do so much. We grow food. We empower the youth. We do our thing. And then the third organization is a strictly Pan-African organization called the Black Star Action Network International.
Okay.
And that organization, we're connected to Pan-African groups like the Pan-African Federalist Movement,
Nice.
the Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Community Leagues.
Mm-hmm.
We're part of a collective called the Exodus Alliance, made up of organizations, 6 organizations, Sankofa Repat Assistance Program, Sister
Nice.
Yah down there in Ghana.
Yes.
We got Brother R.J. Mardi up there in Senegal,
Okay.
with the Al-Kibo Land Development Group, and Made in Africa brand. And so to cut it short for you, y'all can check us out at www.basani.org or www.gullahleone.org. That's GULLAHLEONE. And if you want to email us, info@gullahleone.org.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you too.
Thank you.